Most e-com brands think they need a more advanced email strategy in order to go from 30 to 100K per month. But in reality, they usually just need to get much better at the basics. I took a client's attribute revenue from barely anything to 30% within a few months of returning to the basics. The list was completely damaged due to crazy segmentation strategies that ended up failing because the segmentation was so dedicated and so specific that each segment barely had 30 people in them. Today, I'll show you the exact things to focus on if you want to grow your ecom brand from 30 to 100K and beyond. Alright guys, let's start with a typical 30K per month brand. This kind of brand most of the time already has some flow set up, maybe has a pop-up live, and is sending out some campaigns, not frequently, but at least sometimes, So regarding the flows, this brand will definitely have a welcome flow, maybe an abandoned checkout flow, maybe a post-purchase sequence, maybe some other smaller flows, but overall, the triggers are not perfect. The time delays are not perfect. Of course, the content itself is not perfect. It's not optimized. And also the emails itself, the designs look pretty okay, but of course, there's always room for improvement. Now for the pop-up, I would assume that the pop-up has 4 or 5% subscribe rates. It totally depends on the brand. Now in this case, I wouldn't say that you're above 7 to 8% subscribe rates. And regarding the campaigns, you don't really have frequent campaigns. Maybe you have one campaign per week. Sometimes you have 2 campaigns per week. There's not really a schedule and there's not really a calendar that you're planning out sometimes 4 weeks or sometimes even 8 weeks ahead of time. Basically, you're just sending out when you have something really exciting and you're like, all right, guys, we need to send out a campaign now. And you can see the main problem with all of this is that nothing is really optimized and there's just too many distractions because especially in Klaviyo or even in MailChimp, Omnisend, there's so many things you can do. There are so many things you can try out, and these tools really try to get you to test out these things and run some crazy A/B tests maybe. But after all, this is just distractions, especially for this current stage you're in. So you just end up looking for way too advanced tactics way too early, and you're not really focusing on the basics. The biggest mistake of this entire strategy is that you're just chasing complexity because, again, these tools recommend you to chase complexity. And when you have so many features and so many new exciting things to try out, most of the time you more tend towards chasing complexity rather than cutting all the noise, not trying these new features, not trying those new channels that maybe don't really move the needle for you now, and instead just focus on the core things. So keep in mind, complexity is not the bottleneck. You don't need to get too complex. You don't need to have more complex strategies and more advanced tactics in order to actually grow your email along the brand. 80-20 principle. I know I've thrown this in a lot of times in my recent videos. It's super important, especially for a brand doing 40K per month that wants to scale. 20% of the work creates 80% of the revenue. It's really true. If you focus on the 20% most important stuff and you cut out all the other noise, all the other random things you can try out, you can test out, you're really going to generate 80% of the revenue. Now, I know you're already really excited now what these basics, what these fundamentals even are. And to make it really clear right from the get-go, these are campaigns, flows, and the pop-up. And I'm really serious. If you only focus on these 3 things and you really get the maximum out of these channels, you're going to end up at 40, maybe even 45% attribute revenue without touching any crazy segments or A/B tests or anything like that. So the pillar 1 of those 3 pillars will be the pop-up. I know this slide looks really empty, but not to say that the pop-up is not important. The pop-up is actually, from my opinion, the most important element out of those 3, because when you have the pop-up optimized, naturally, many more people will actually enter your list. In order to do that, quick overview on that today. And I do have a video going into detail on best practices in 2026, what to do, what not to do right now. And you should definitely check that one out. But to again give you a quick overview, the most important thing is to really declutter your pop-up. Remove all the text that says join us for exclusive updates or subscribe for the latest trends and latest news. Nobody cares. Just give them an offer that really makes people think, should I subscribe? Yes, probably I should. Give them the offer, tell them, hey, you need to subscribe in order to get that offer, and then let them subscribe and then leave them alone. Second part of the equation is to test. If you're not testing your pop-up, you just don't know what works for your brand, for your audience. Please trust me with this one because I'm talking from experience. You can take 2 brands that are in the same niche. Let's say you take 2 jewelry brands. And for one brand, product images versus lifestyle images, the product images just work way better for some reason. People just want to see the product instead of someone wearing the product and looking good with that. They just want to see the bare product and then they'll subscribe way more likely. You can try to copy that and you can try to apply that to the other jewelry brand. A lot of times it will not work like that. So find out what works for your exact brand and not for some other brands from a niche that maybe some people told you about what works or doesn't work. Test it on your own and you're going to end up having 10% plus subscribe rates. If you feel like this just can't be it, I took another client subscribe rates from 4% to over 11% in a few weeks by applying these two principles. I'm not joking. It's declutter the pop-up and test the crap out of it. Now we arrived at the second holy pillar of email marketing. It's the campaigns. And for the first point, you want to send 3 or 4 campaigns per week. You might think your audience gets annoyed, but right here you can see the campaign performance for a 6-figure brand currently scaling to 100K per month. And we're currently sending out 3 campaigns per week. So don't worry, you won't hurt your audience. People sign up for this, so send them the content they want. And now you might think, yeah, we want to send out 3 or 4 campaigns per week. We don't think that our audience will be annoyed by it, but we don't really know what to create, what angles to take, what to actually send to our audience. But let me tell you, consistency beats perfection. Your email doesn't need to look perfect. It doesn't need to have the perfect angle. You can simply send out a campaign, send out a second campaign, and send out a third campaign, and then you can compare those 3 campaigns and see which angle performs best. And then you might be like, oh, the second angle performed way better. Maybe we want to iterate on the second angle and find different variations for this angle. So what I want to tell you with this is that consistency naturally beats perfection. Don't get too caught up in crazy A/B tests at this stage. Only do high leverage A/B tests. And if you don't have high leverage A/B tests where you test 2 different offers or you test 2 completely different layouts or you test a really short text-based campaign versus a really long text-based campaign, things that really make a difference visually as well. If you don't have those tests right now, if you don't want to run them right now, don't run any tests at all. Instead of some crazy subject line tests where you're testing an emoji versus no emoji with a list of even 20, 30, 40,000 people, it won't give you any compelling results. You really need a freaking big list in order to have an emoji versus no emoji with compelling results. And in today's age, you can come up with different campaign angles so easily. Guys, we're in ChatGPT and you can use ChatGPT, you can use Claude, Gemini, Grok, whatever. I don't really care. And you're just going to ask it, we're an ecom brand in this and this niche and our target audience is this and this and we're selling these and these products and we currently don't really have any compelling email angles. Can you please come up with 10 different email angles? Ask me the most important questions you need first before giving me those angles. Boom. You're going to send it and you're going to wait for the questions and then you're going to answer the questions and then you're simply going to have 10 angles. And you can of course ask it to give you 10 more angles. You can ask it to give you 100 more angles. You can even ask it to give you 200 more angles. I don't care. You have so much stuff to try out, so many different angles just with this one prompt, with this one chat. And don't ever complain again that you don't have any email angles and that you're not creative enough and that you don't have enough ideas. After this rant about the campaigns, we're going to collectively breathe in and out. All right, much better. Now we can continue with pillar number 3, which is our core flows. And we basically want to part this into 2 different categories, you could say. And category number 1 is the pre-purchase flows. Category number 2 will be the post-purchase flows. And of course, the pre-purchase flows are for nurturing the customer, for educating the customer, and driving them towards a purchase. And of course, don't get crazy in segmentation. But if you have the capacity, if you have enough people on your team, whatever, you can definitely think about having different segments for people that are at different stages of the journey that are maybe more likely to purchase versus that just joined your list and that don't really open any emails versus people that just joined your list and just opened a few emails, clicked here and there, but didn't really do anything. So these are definitely the welcome flow, the abandoned cart flow, the abandoned checkout flow, browse abandonment flow, and site abandonment flow. These are really the core flows. We do have a few more small flows that we could implement, but don't worry about that right now. Please just implement those flows. If you were to only pick one flow, pick the welcome flow. If you only were to pick 2 flows, pick the welcome and the abandoned checkout flow. And for 3 flows, I would say welcome, abandoned cart, and abandoned checkout, and then just go down this priority list. But ideally, you want to have all those flows set up with ideally 3 or 4 emails each. Now for the post-purchase category, you mainly have the post-purchase thank you flows, and then you have the win-back flow. And the win-back flow is really just for winning back people that lapsed, customers that purchased once, twice, or even 3 times, and then just churned. And the post-purchase thank you flow is basically for people that just completed a purchase. And you can see it says flows because there are different approaches to this. And for our clients, we typically like to implement different flows for different events. So first of all, for the first purchase, and then also for the repeat purchase. And then third of all, for VIPs. So people that either spend a certain amount with your brand or place a certain amount of orders with your brand. And if you really want to segment one of those flows, I recommend you segment the post-purchase thank you flows, because this is just a great way for meeting people at different stages, nurturing them differently, and also encouraging repeat purchases, cross-sells, upsells, all of that good stuff. And your post-purchase flows can definitely be a bit longer, talking 6 to 8 emails, depending on the brand, of course, but it's great to follow people along their journey from purchasing over the product being shipped to the product is delivered and enjoyed. And people will feel less buyer's remorse when they get an email every day, every 2 days with some new updates from a brand, so that they know that you didn't close a brand and go to Russia or something. So make sure that people know you're there. Tiny little point down here, you can see no flow A/B tests yet. And I really mean it the way I say it, because at 30K per month, you don't have enough people running through each of those flows that you can run a test that is completed after a few weeks maybe. If you run an A/B test and you really want to get compelling results of this test, even for a welcome flow, even for a really high traffic flows, you will need to wait 5 months sometimes. So this is something that you want to save for later. Just don't bother and instead test the campaigns and test the pop-up. In order to not get stuck yourself, it is really important to understand why brands get stuck in the first place. And it basically boils down to a few points. So mainly people have too much advice online. There's too much noise out there, and everyone is telling you some different tactics, some different techniques that will really work for a brand this time, and that will really help you increase your revenue from email and from other marketing channels. And you're basically copying e-com founders, e-com owners that are freaking successful with their brand. They're telling you do this, this, and this, but that's actually advice for their stage and not for yours. You end up optimizing for the wrong things. Now take this analogy on the right. I'm probably need to explain a bit here. So let's say I'm this dude right here. You can't see him that well. It's basically him. And you can see, let's say it's me, and I have this small little belly right here. And I'm asking you, so you are this guy right here, or this gal, and I'm asking you guys, what can I do in order to lose weight? And now imagine you would tell me, go to the gym 6 times per week and also do running every single morning, because that's what we do. And I will go home and I will be like, dude, I can't go to the gym 6 times per week and I can't go running every morning. I can't even go running whatsoever. Now, my face is covering this. You can see on the right, there's a check mark. And let's say again, you're this person or the person next to me, you can't see in this image. And I'm asking you, what should I do to lose weight? And you're telling me, dude, just go for a walk 30 minutes a day. And then you'll slowly start losing weight. Without those check marks and crosses down here, you probably know yourself what's best. So I don't want to say that your brand can be compared to this lightly obese guy right here, but you get what I'm saying. People that are at completely different stages, brands that are just way ahead of you, don't copy their advice and instead focus on the basics. Focus on the daily walk instead of this crazy gym routine and this crazy running routine. Yes, there are brands that are more advanced in their strategy that use completely crazy segments and completely crazy A/B tests, but this is only justified after you hit around the $10 million per year mark, because then your list will definitely be big enough so that you can justify crazy tests, so that you can segment your audience, so that will actually be worth it, and you're not getting caught up in some stuff and instead actually getting the most out of your audience. But if you're not there yet, please focus on those 3 pillars. Please focus on the pop-ups, the campaigns, and the flows, like we just discussed, because you will get those 80% out of those 20% that you focus on. The key takeaway is 30K to 100K per month isn't about doing more. It's actually about doing less. So nail the basics before you earn the right to become more advanced. And the one action step after this video I want you to take is to ask yourself, where can I do less? And really let that sink in. Ask yourself, where can I do less? Where can I declutter the pop-up? Where can I declutter the campaigns, the flows, the entire strategy, so that you're not caught up in some BS that is frankly not moving the needle. Now, if you want to learn how to improve those 3 pillars, there are step-by-step guides in this playlist right here.